Timecam, you have the floor.
Hey guys, congratulations. The first thing is to get this retail price, I saw it's $69.95. Do you expect that to be the street price for the games? And also, where do you think the third-party software is going to come in at in terms of pricing? Thanks.
Yeah, this is Peter. I'm not sure where you saw that pricing. First-party software is an MSRP of $49.95, and we expect the street price on software generally to be at that $50 price point.
Okay, I just saw it in a Bloomberg press wire, so I might be wrong. All right, thanks.
I think it's a misquote. We're going to be competitive.
Next question from Edward Williams. You have the floor.
Hi, Peter. Just a couple questions for you. Could you let us know how many of these third-party titles might be available at launch?
Right. The question was, at launch, how many of the third-party titles? At launch, we expect that our library will be 7 to 8 titles, of which 3 will be ours and possibly 4 to 5 licensee, growing to holiday season, calendar year-end, 5 first-party and 15 third-party, second and third-party, for a total of 18 to 20 titles.
Okay, thanks. And then just a couple of other questions. Can you comment at all on wholesale pricing and on your fiscal year targets for Game Boy Advance as well as GameCube?
Are you talking about our North American targets, Edward?
Yes.
The North American targets on Game Boy Advance at this point are still, as indicated in the 5 million and 15 million software. We haven't announced an uptick on that one yet. We're continuing to monitor through the summer months, and we'll probably be taking a revised look at that by early September. So our year-end numbers at 5 and 15, and as you know, our current U.S. sell-through is in fact in the 1.4 million range.
Okay, any comments at all on the wholesale pricing for GameCube?
Wholesale pricing on GameCube, the hardware is a volume price of $192. The software is priced at $40 even.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next question from Brian Stelter. You have the floor, sir.
Hi, thanks. Brian Stelter with GamerLog.com. A lot of people are wondering about Squaresoft and other third-party publishers that we haven't heard from today. Granted, there will be a lot more third-party games at launch than there were, say, at the end of before launch, but they are from only a few publishers. Can we expect more broad third-party support, and is there more support than what you've announced today?
In a word to the latter part of your question, there is more third-party support than what we've shown to this point. We showed examples of product in advanced development, and our focus is not on maximizing the number of developers on this system. It's in optimizing the quality of those developers. We're absolutely convinced we have got the top quality developers around the world currently at work on this project. So stay tuned. You'll be hearing more about their efforts in the months ahead.
Okay, and 2 other quick questions. Is Square waiting in the wings? Will we see Square on the GameCube? And where are games like Perfect Dark Zero?
I didn't catch the second part of it.
Perfect Dark, are we going to see that at any time in the future?
There's nothing really to announce today on either Square or Perfect Dark. I have no new information for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next question from Alex Hand. Go ahead.
Hi, Peter. I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit more about the supply for Japan and sort of elucidate what the supply chain wrinkle is you referred to earlier.
The supply chain wrinkle that I alluded to in my comments had to do with, firstly, noting the misfire that occurred 1 year ago when somebody came to market with approximately 400,000 units and the chaos that followed. We believed, looking at both the strong initial response to the pre-sale here in Japan, coupled with our desire to have a number north of 600,000 units available, that the two made sense, and that on top of our ability then to, in fact, we believe, own that important Thanksgiving week with both the launch of Nintendo GameCube and some unbelievably strong retailer support for Game Boy Advance that week. Nintendo will be the prime systems, plural, of choice for holidayers in America. So the wrinkle really was to make sure we avoided somebody else's misstep.
And what's the supply for Japan this year?
As we've announced that the ship figure through December 31 is 2.5 million pieces of hardware. The ship number through March 31 is 4 million pieces of hardware, and we're currently in the mode of certainly monitoring what's going to happen in Japan with the follow-through to what looks like a very strong launch. They likewise will be watching our results, but as indicated, we're locked and loaded for 700,000 coming to market, and we believe that that number will grow to about 1.1 million by holiday.
Can you talk a little bit about any pre-order programs you have out there and any bundling programs you might have?
Yeah, bundling is not part of our program. Somebody else thought that was a good idea, and we wish them well with it. The pre-sale programs in the U.S., every retailer in the country has been pushing to, in fact, start those programs. We are more focused this time on a pre-awareness campaign as opposed to worrying about locking up deposits. And I'll just remind you that the successful launch of Game Boy Advance took a grand total of 8 weeks. In spite of our insistence and desire that there not be a massive pre-sale on that, it ended up in us selling through, as you know, almost 1 million units in its first 4 weeks. So it's about awareness and trial and getting their hands on, not about locking up deposits. And rather than create a lot of frustration at retail and amongst consumers, it'll be pre-awareness, and then November 18th, GameCube Sunday in America is the time to step up to the plate.
Okay.
Next question from you guys. Paul, you have the floor.
Thank you. Peter, about the launch date, you sort of explained why it was shifted, but what were your projections that caused you to think that the original date would have been ideal at the time that you announced it?
At that time, we were still looking at what the splits might be on what had been projected as original production numbers. And from the get-go, we had suggested to NCL that we would like that number to be north of 500,000 units. As it falls out, it looks like they're going to be off to a roaring start, and we're excited for them for that basis. It then said an extra. It's not a huge delay. Again, one was a street date, and the other one is a ship date. So my ship date of November 5, in fact, was going to become a street date of the 8th or 9th. We're now 9 days off of that, but I'm 25% better in availability of both hardware and software. And we just think that makes for smart leverage on all our marketing efforts and just a bigger impact throughout the country and certainly at retail on that day.
And lastly, has retail expressed any concerns about a Sunday street? It seems like an odd-ish day of the week to have a launch.
It's an ideal day of the week to have a launch because the majority of our retailers support their business with Sunday rotos. They break on Saturday for Sunday implementation, and so all your mass merchants and specialty merchants, electronic stores, etc., that's an ideal date for them. The goods arrive in store by the Thursday of the week preceding. It's prepped and put on sale that day, and for them, it's been generally received as just a very exciting piece of news that's going to help guarantee a very outstanding retail week for them.
Thank you, Peter.
We are taking questions in order as they go into queue, and the next question is from Greg Chang. You have the floor.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could elaborate more on your plans for the pre-awareness campaign, which you discussed earlier. The reason I asked that is that it does seem like at the U.S. retail environment that merchandising for Xbox has been pretty aggressive, and we really haven't seen any posters and so on for GameCube. And I was just wondering, why you've allowed them to get a head start, and when you're expecting to start, boosting the awareness of GameCube.
I again would speak briefly about the very, very successful launch of Game Boy Advance, where we, by design, decided not to do public relations, in-store displays, anything until the week following Easter. And that gave us then an 8-week concentrated time frame to absolutely maximize the impact of our marketing expenditures. And that time frame was proven adequate to convince players and gatekeepers for players that this was a product worthy of their attention. They went to retail, they checked it out on the interactives, and they bought it in large numbers. The fact that somebody else that's never been in the business has decided to spend a lot of money over the last several months with paper and other things is really immaterial. We're absolutely convinced that in the 12 weeks between now and launch day, we in fact can deliver conclusive evidence that this is the best console game product, bar nothing, to come to market, and when backed up with a retail price point that is obviously much improved and better over anything that's being offered, we think we've got an ideal combination. But the point you raised about trial and hands-on, the thing we were referring to, and you'll be hearing a lot more detail about it, it's a national tour that is called the GameCube Clubs. We are creating 12 sites around the country that launch in September. We'll take the product on tour. It'll stay in these major markets for a week to 10 days, 3 different tours, and we expect to sample over 500,000 units. And that'll lead up to the installation of those 8,000 interactives by mid to late October. So people are going to hear about it. A variety of methods are going to get hands-on trial, and we feel very confident based on our considerable experience in past launches that this is a dynamite package that's going to give everybody a chance to hear and, more importantly, feel and understand why this is the best system in the market.
So prior to installing the interactives at retailers, will you have promotional materials available, or and when do you plan to do that, if so?
You will start to see merchandising materials appearing at retail in late September.
One last question. Do you expect Xbox to launch in Japan this year?
I'll pass that over to Mr. Iwata. I think he said no.
I don't think so. And it's almost impossible to launch in Japan, I think.
Why is that?
They are focusing on U.S. market right now.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Next question from Rick Towers. You have the floor.
Hi, PMA. Rick Towers from PlanetGameCube.com. Quick little follow-up question on your Xbox promotion issue. I know that you pushed back the launch date till November 18th, and it was a fairly big coup at E3 when you announced that you're going to be launching 3 days prior to Microsoft launching their Xbox. Are you seeing any problems with Microsoft being able to get any sort of a head start on you in the U.S. market?
In a word, no, we don't. This question of a week or 2 weeks at this time of year is immaterial. Similarly, as I pointed out in the last go-through, we came to market a year after Sony, as we're doing this time with PlayStation 1. We, in fact, by the end of our 12th month in market, had a larger installed base than PS1. We subsequently fell behind after that because of lack of software and not by virtue of having come to market a year later. We think we've corrected the software side of it. We've greatly expanded first, second, and third-party support, and we feel confident with our prospects, again, coming to market a year after Sony. The fact that the other guy may or may not show up on the indicated date is immaterial to us.
Okay, a couple more quick questions, if that's okay. You mentioned that November 5th was intended to be the ship date for GameCube, not the street date, with the street to be the 8th or 9th. Now that you've announced that the 18th of November is going to be the street date now, what date do you plan on actually shipping those units to retailers?
In order to meet a street date of the 18th, which is a Sunday, the product, in fact, has to be at retail by the Thursday preceding at the outside.
Okay. And last question for you. Since you delayed the launch until the 18th, a lot of people are suggesting that it wasn't even so much to get the quantities up, but you also wanted to get quantities of the newly announced black GameCube unit in the stores as well. What are we going to see the break on the numbers in terms of the purple GameCube units versus the black ones?
Let me assure you that the date change had nothing to do with the black unit, but to answer your question, will be 50-50 at launch, 350,000 of each color, and they'll be there. Again, the launch date was entirely a discretionary call, widely discussed in the U.S. and here in Japan. It just makes great sense to ensure that this is the most successful launch we've ever had.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next question from T.J. McNeely. You have the floor.
Good evening, gentlemen. We've heard quite a bit about marketing dollars being thrown around this fall for the market, and you mentioned the figure $75 million for Nintendo. I didn't know if that's a U.S. figure only, and if not, what's the worldwide figure? And can you give us a better idea of what some of those campaigns and where those dollars are being spent?
$75 million is clearly U.S. only. It does not include Canada, Latin America, or any other part of the launch that's taking place this fall. I think a number was quoted in one of the releases here for combined worldwide spending on this product. And if you could just hold one moment. Including Yeah, I'm sorry. The figure quoted was for total Nintendo spending was about $550 million or $500 million. Yeah, let me just clarify. It was 55 billion yen, about $400 million worldwide this year. But we haven't broken out the Japanese launch. The 75 million is U.S. media, merchandising. And promotional support, all first-party spend. The media campaigns, I indicated there's 8 of them. I don't want to take a lot of everybody's time tonight to go through each of them, but obviously there's a hardware campaign, and there's 7 individual software campaigns, intensive television, print, online, and saturation cinema advertising in both November and December.
And is that marketing campaign targeted at the primary young kids group or a much broader demographic?
Because, again, there's 7 different software campaigns. They are specific to those software titles. So where we've got teen-rated product, it'll be older teens and young 20s. Where it's an E-rated product, it will be obviously our conventional youth-oriented. But as we talk about Eternal Darkness and Wave Race, and certainly some of the sports product, the Rogue Squadron third-party product, that clearly is against the older end of the target group.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have 20 questions in queue at this time, but our next one is from Jeff Berman. Mr. Berman, you have the floor.
Good morning, guys. 2 questions. First, you had mentioned that Mario Sunshine would be coming out in Japan, I believe, next summer. When would the U.S. launch of that be? And then the other question I have, I was just wondering if you could clarify the shipment figures for the U.S. North America market. Is it 700,000 only for the U.S., or there's going to be additional ones for the rest of North America, and then also the shipments, North America shipments, 1.1 million units by December 31st. How many of those 1.1 million would be for the U.S.?
The 700 and the 1.1 are North American numbers.
Okay.
And of that total, in excess of 90% of it is U.S. The question about launch date for Mario Sunshine clearly was indicated as summer for Japan next year, and we have not yet announced the U.S. date.
Thank you.
Next question from Michael Height.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. One of the things that you haven't addressed this morning, which was shown back at E3, was the broadband expansion capability. No announcements were made then, but you certainly did show the hardware that would make that possible. Can you update at all on your plans for broadband?
There were no announcements today on broadband. Clearly, as we pointed out at E3, this council is being brought to market as not only the best system, pound for pound, ready to play great games today, but prepared for tomorrow. We've obviously spent money to accommodate the broadband expansion capability, and we're not yet prepared to announce what that expansion capability is, nor are we, unlike our competitors, asking consumers to pay money up front for such a future possibility.
Any further progress on the Panasonic version that was also shown at E3 and around at the shows in Japan, on that version coming to the U.S. market?
Pass that over to Mr. Iwata. He's just doing a brief translation here on what they have announced. If you bear with me for a moment.
Thank you.
As a matter of fact, starting from tomorrow, we are going to have the 3-day Nintendo SpaceWorld show, and during the 3-day show, we are going to exhibit, or not just the Panasonic is going to exhibit, the actual working model of the, the one that they are going to sell, including the capability of running Nintendo GameCube inside. And for the details, we are not expecting any announcement to be made pretty soon, but that's up to Panasonic, which is responsible for marketing this product.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Minagawa presenting that.
The next question is from Heath Terry. Please go ahead.
Just wondering if you could give us some kind of indication, with the additional third-party support that you're getting, what Nintendo's targeted market share is for the GameCube system.
I'm not prepared to divulge that at this moment. We're going out the door with 1.1 million in the U.S., 2.5 between the two markets.
I was actually referring to software on your own system.
Oh, first to third.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly will be more evenly balanced than it's been historically, and I think certainly if you measure it in the first couple of weeks, it's a 85-15 first party. If you measure it over the first 13 weeks, it may be closer to a 75-25. Over the longer term, it may be 2/3, 1/3, 60-40, something directionally in that area. There's no question that the strength of Nintendo first-party franchises, products that are capable of selling 1.5 million and 2 million against 5 million hardware installed bases, creates a percentage problem not felt by our competitors who can only dream of achieving such numbers with their first-party product.
Gotcha. Thank you.
The next question is from Ines Romano.
Yes, hi. I wanted to know when will be the GameCube available in Latin America?
The question is, when will the GameCube be available in Latin America?
Yep.
We have not yet announced a ship date for Brazil, which is a PAL-M system. We're currently working on that, but other regions within Latin America will be receiving product at the same time as we're shipping in North America.
Okay, and what will the price be?
I'd rather have you chat with Mr. Singer, our general manager. I'm not prepared to talk volume pricing about a specific region on this call.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff Hoyt is open.
Yes, thank you for your time. With the RPG market of players that's growing pretty rapidly, and it's a very strong core group, I was wondering if there are any companies, first, second, or third party, that are going to be developing for the Nintendo GameCube that will focus on the group of gamers that is made up with the RPG market.
Okay. I'd like to have Mr. Iwata talk to that point.
Yes, one of the titles we showed today was the Blue from software. That is actually going to be one of the first RPG titles for GameCube.
Did you hear what he said?
I couldn't quite get it. I heard like first RPG title, then I missed the rest.
RUNE from software. It's the first RPG title that was shown. It was shown today.
Okay.
It will be part of the early releases for the system.
Okay.
Another RPG product is currently in somewhat later stages of development.
Okay. Also, I was wondering if there is any chance for Mother 3 being updated for release on the Nintendo GameCube, like titles such as Animal Force and Dinosaur Planet War.
Unfortunately, we don't have anything to tell about Mother 3 or any platform right out of this moment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next question is from Nicholas Marcos.
Let's see, first question, this might be a little bit off base, but I have read up somewhere that Nintendo has historically been profitable on all its systems and has not used them as loss leaders for software. Will this be true for the GameCube? Can you say anything about that?
I think we've indicated that we expect to incur a small loss on the hardware on GameCube initially, and you're right that it hasn't been our habit in the past, but it will be slight, and we expect that to turn profitable early next year. But right out of the starting gate, we'll incur a slight loss.
Okay, and the second thing is, can you say anything about, you mentioned a couple of titles that may appear only in Japan and not North America. Do you know if Animal Force Plus or Animal Eater will be one of these? They seem to disappear and reappear at random on the release list.
We're still not certain of that. We were surprised with the tremendous success that product had in Japan, and we're constantly reevaluating that, but a firm decision hasn't been made on that title yet.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Ed McLaughlin is open.
Yes, thanks for spending some time talking with us, guys. Soul Calibur 2 is one of the select third-party titles shown today, but looking back to the Dreamcast, Soul Calibur was a marquee third-party title initially, but it almost represented the peak of third-party software for the system. What kind of steps is Nintendo taking to ensure that isn't the situation with games like Soul Calibur 2?
Sure, what? Just give us a moment here.
Not a problem.
That Nintendo is not concerned about third-party titles because we believe that we are going to have even better titles than that for the Dreamcast at the launch. I'm talking specifically about the Soul Calibur 2. Well, as a matter of fact, what we have shown today is just a very short and early stage version of the game. What counts most is, of course, what the final video game is going to be like played by the consumer. And we are pretty much sure and counting on Namco to finish up with a very good fine-tuning in the end.
Okay, thanks. One more quick question for Mr. Iwata. Not to beat the Square point into the ground, but many of us were surprised this past January when Mr. Yamauchi publicly rebuked idea by Square to develop for the Game Boy Advance. Can you comment on NCL's openness to working with Square in the future after having said no to them publicly this January?
Well, we just can't talk about the future, but as of right now, we have nothing to comment about Nintendo Square situation.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
The next question is from Brian Cashman. Please go ahead.
Hi, Brian Cashman from Nintendozo. The Zelda title showed off earlier today. It seemed very different from the one showed at E3 and SpaceWorld last year. Is it possible that these are two separate titles?
Yes. You're talking about Zelda?
Yeah.
No, as a matter of fact, Mr. Miyamoto, during the Q&A session today, found that it is going to be the one which he has shown today, that is going to be the actual product. And that, as a matter of fact, in the early stage, they were working on a variety of different versions of the new Zelda, the one including what we have shown at the E3 show, but after careful consideration, and the fact of the matter is, Mr. Miyamoto and his team really wanted to work on something unprecedented, unique, and challenging. And so they have decided to go ahead with the version they have shown today.
Okay, thank you.
Victor Godinez is open.
Hi, yes, thank you. I was curious whether you were at all concerned about the fact that the economic slowdown here in the U.S. seems to have dampened things like computer sales, and whether you're at all concerned whether that might have any effect on console sales, and specifically GameCube, when it launches this year.
Right. The question, what's our viewpoint on the economic slowdown in the U.S.? Touch wood, first of all, it's incredible that even with the slowdown the first 6 months of the year, that the industry is experiencing 29% year-on-year growth. Absolutely. That's in a dollar basis. Unbelievable expansion, I guess, showing that even in tough times, as we've seen in the past, more and more households turn to this form of entertainment as perhaps an enlightening part of an otherwise tough circumstance. But looking at the back end of the year, we like our prospects with GameCube. Certainly, again, number one, because we've got an incredible array of all family entertainment in addition to that niche product that we're talking about. And secondly, we're the best deal in town at $199.95. I would think other people out trying to peddle $500 bundles might be wondering about the wisdom of that. But for us, we've got great product and great pricing.
Okay, thank you.
Dan Q is open.
My question's been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from David Becker.
We were expecting a little more news on online plans. Are any of the initial games going to have online features?
Did not unveil anything regarding online activity. Again, we're spending the money to make sure that we've got the capability of doing that, and our plan is going to unfold in the months ahead, but we're not prepared to talk about it today.
All right, thank you.
The next question is from the GCI Group Canada.
Hi, my name is Jacky Cates from GameSweeks.com. I was just wondering, with the cancellation of Raven Blade from Retro Studios, many people are worried that Retro Studios is not capable of handling the Metroid franchise. We just wanted to know if Nintendo themselves might take over the game.
All of our second-party groups work very closely with NCL's EAD development group, and Retro is certainly part of that group. They're working very closely with Retro in respect to refining and finishing the Metroid game. And we're very optimistic that that product's going to come to market in great form.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all from the GCI Group?
Yes.
Thank you. Steve Macris is open.
Hello, gentlemen. Steve from Canada. I have one question to ask. With the GameCube being released in the
United States on a Thanksgiving weekend, which is probably the most sacred weekend to celebrate family values. Could you please comment on the recent study that was much published around the world from Japan's Hopi University that video games promote antisocial behavior?
There's been a variety of commentary over the last 20-odd years about video games and their obvious benefits in promoting great social interaction, certainly with the advent of 2, 3, and 4-player products. There is a complete lack of substantiation today that video games contribute specifically to any social behavior. There's been several hypotheses, all unproven, and we're confident that Thanksgiving, truly a time of family togetherness in America, is an appropriate time to bring a family product of this kind to the marketplace, and it's going to be a winner for those reasons.
Thank you.
Good time for 2 more questions.
All right, we have Jacky Cates on the line. Please go ahead.
Okay, from Reforma, a newspaper in Mexico, changing in this GameCube console from cartridge to disc, how well protected are them for illegal copying? Is one question, and I have another one. I will wait the answer.
The first one, your question about security and ability to protect against illicit copying. One of the key reasons that Nintendo has chosen to use the proprietary Macris 3.5-inch optical disc is the proprietary nature of the security system on that. It's not an open architecture, and we feel very optimistic that the problems encountered by people with DVD systems and DVD media are not to be replicated here. We feel very confident that we have strong security measures in place.
All right. And the second question is, considering that in November, Sony is launching the Metal Gear Solid 2 game, and weeks ago they launched GT3 with a great success. How are you planning to defeat the advantage that Sony has taken in this year going?
There's no question Sony's had a couple of recent titles out of the now 125 that they've published. That's a handful out of 125, and they have come to market a year ahead of us. We don't find that any more daunting than we did in 1996 when we came a year after them. They similarly had several strong titles in front of us, and we're going to rely upon the powerful lineup of software, first, second, and third party that we see coming to the GameCube to address those as we move ahead. It's not about a year advantage. It's not about 1 or 2 titles. It's about ongoing overall performance and great value to the gamers, regardless of their age or gaming interest, and we think we're in a good position to deliver on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final question is from Tae Kim. Please go ahead.
Hi, Peter. Are there any first-party titles in development that are targeting the older demographic?
We talk about first and second party together, and I think we've got a number of titles. Wave Race is clearly a product that in its first iteration had huge success with the older teens and young 20s. Eternal Darkness is a product that we're working with Silicon Knights very closely on up there in St. Catharines. A powerful product, clearly positioned against the 18-plus crowd. And that backed up with a variety of terrific third-party product in addition to some other first-party older teen. We think we're going to be in good stead there. This has been a very conscious effort to, number one, do a maximum job on our historic stronghold, the younger gamer, the 8 to 14 key target, to protect that at all costs. We've done that in spades while successfully adding some very solid product appealing to the older demo that we think will spell success for us.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for taking this time with us this evening. We're all going to be back in the U.S. on Sunday, Monday, and we'd be happy to do follow-up questions with any of you at that time. I just ask that you perhaps direct those through Golan Harris's offices. I think you all have their numbers in Los Angeles and we'd be happy to set up appropriate interviews with you next week. Thank you again very much, and wish you a great holiday season. A lot of Game Boy Advance and Nintendo GameCube. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for participating in the 2001 SpaceWorld conference call. A 24-hour replay of this call is available by calling the following numbers. From within the United States, please call 1-800-252-6030, and international callers dial 402-220-2491. You'll need to enter the access code 9541571. Playback of this call will also be available on Nintendo's Password media site within 48 hours of the conference call. Thank you.